But let's slide into another topic here. Let's talk about Hasbro. Yes, Hasbro, the toys and all that other stuff like that. They've been involved. They've been around the block, you know what I mean? But it's time to talk about how they're jumping into video games. All right, there's a lot of stuff that's going down with their jump. They've seen a really big opportunity to get into it and see what's going on with video games at a broad stroke. They have 4 AAA studios so far. They're again over $1 billion into investment on these studios and different games that they're making. We'll get into we'll get into the games first, actually, because I want to talk about some of these projects, what they might have on the slate, and what might be coming down the pipe from them, and then we'll get to the kind of the macro conversation about how they fit into the gaming space and what they look like. So first, let's just stop in Exodus, the Exodus game from Archetype Entertainment. It's that one game that we saw that kind of looked Mass Effect-ish with Matthew McConaughey, kind of the space time travel. Just a quick note, again, Exodus, where you stand on Exodus, when?
I think it was interesting. Still need to see more though.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Just need a little bit more, sauce on it to give a good picture of where they're basically at. That's fine. Next one up, we had a very, very big report that even got its own separate little note that Snake Eyes G.I. Joe, that game will be in the works, and it will be running similar to Batman Arkham, that series. Some of the devs who are working on the Snake Eyes project, they're at Atomic Arcade, and some of those executives and long-term vets, they were involved in the making of the Arkham series, so they want to try and key and fit G.I. Joe Snake Eyes himself into that mold of Batman in those games. So how do you feel about this news?
I think that looks dope, but I would have preferred it to do something more of a Metal Gear Rising type of vibe. But I don't think that it's a bad. I don't think it's a bad step either way. I still think it's a pretty good decision they made.
Yeah, you couldn't go wrong with either option, in my opinion. Yeah, G.I. Joe. That's a really that's just a kick-ass franchise, in my opinion. This is like a lot like, we just want action, nonstop
Untapped
type shit.
Potential.
Very, very untapped potential, and I think this could be a really strong hit. Emulating the Arkham series is a very, very smart move. I think that fits very, very well. Wondering what some of the narrative, what the build's going to look like, but that path of thinking, that logic is very smart from them if they want to build it, because I feel like also in general, I feel like we haven't had a AAA dose of that kind of Arkham combat in a minute, so that could be very fruitful for them. That could be very, very fruitful for them. That could be a good project. The next one up was a brand new Dungeons and Dragons game from Invoke Studios. So how do you feel about a brand new D&D game from Invoke?
Yeah, we'll see. Again, I like D&D, but the magic that D&D games have had, only one person could really replicate it, and they're not working on it, so we'll see what happens.
And last but certainly not least, we had the last game out of the 4. It was a horror game coming from Skeleton Key Dev. They're out of Austin, Texas. I guess a horror game. I'm not sure what they worked on before. They might be a brand new studio, actually. So how do you feel about that?
I will watch other people play it.
Understandable. But yeah, okay, cool. Those are the 4 games that we're looking at. That's what they have on the slate. But just looking at some of the other information that was provided in the reports, apparently they have a much larger portfolio on hand that we know in terms of pipeline and projects they're actually trying to bring in. They're aiming to be quote unquote authentic and quality focused. Hasbro apparently definitely plans to give teams time to develop games as long as they need. It sounds good. It sounds great. I'm not gonna lie, all this does. But can they actually bring this to life? Can they deliver? And I want to talk about, just their track record, because I've learned over the past week, especially from the comments on one of our shorts. Shout out to everybody who's commented like 1,000 fucking times that it's not necessarily Wizard of the Coast that was doing all the bad faith and bad deeds on the D&D franchise and Baldur's Gate and their involvement with Larian Studios. It was actually Hasbro really trying to push that front and forcing Wizard of the Coast's hand into some decisions on D&D that weren't the most favorable. So there's a lot of talk about, can Hasbro show good faith and show good practice in developing gaming franchises, but it also kind of conflicts with some of the track record that I'm hearing and I've learned about from their involvement on Baldur's Gate 3, how the loops and hoops that they had to jump through for that, and what the outlay of their actions prior on gaming has shown. So when, in terms of outlook, what they're trying to put forth versus what they've kind of shown in the past, any concerns, any just prevailing thoughts about where Hasbro needs to be at mentally?
Oh, you know me, I think that this is not going to end well at all, but I'm a pessimist. That being said, I think that for Hasbro to do well, like, you kind of need somebody to push back on the higher ups that know nothing and want to know nothing about creating video games. Like, you need somebody like manning the ship and also defending the developers. I have no faith in Hasbro being able to make quality games, because at the end of the day, they know how to make plastic toys to make money. Like, toys are just money-making machines to them. They don't really care about making good toys. They care about making toys that make them money. Like, truly, that's... I don't think any of them really even see what they do as like anything other than just making money. So when you're telling me that they're making video games now, and you're telling me that they're going to start letting people take their time and take as much time and money as they need, no, I couldn't believe that. That's the furthest from the truth. I couldn't believe that at all. I think what they're saying that to build some kind of like good rapport with gamers, but the products at the end of the day are going to speak for themselves. And I think truly the developers should also be speaking up and letting us know what happens. If they drop a G.I. Joe game and we're like, this shit is half baked and ass, I would love for them to be like, listen, we didn't really have a lot of time and there was a lot of crunch and da-da-da-da-da. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that if any of these companies make bad games for Hasbro will have no hesitation in shutting down that studio. They will have no hesitation in shutting down the studio, selling what they need to sell to get their money back. Like, at the end of the day, they want money. They want money. They don't really give a fuck about anything else. They're not sitting here trying to win a BAFTA. They're not sitting here trying to be like, I hope we do really well at the Game Awards. They want their bottom line. They want their money. And that's just unfortunately the biz. And I can't imagine the toy company really sitting down and being like, let's make some good quality art. Let's make some consumer friendly shit. I think a lot of companies that are getting into the gaming space, especially now, really just see how much money is being made by companies and are like, whoa, I want some of this Fortnite money. Fortnite toys are selling out the wazoo. Why can't we make this money off of it? It's a nasty corporate greed is really the problem in gaming right now. And hearing a big corporation getting into the space doesn't really fill me up with the joy.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Hasbro irks me, especially with what I've learned over the past week and change about their involvement with Baldur's Gate 3. And for those that are unfamiliar, basically with kind of just their situation between them, Wizards of the Coast, the prevailing stories and things have gone and how this is laid out, they kind of announced that, hey, we're gonna try and do a bunch of shit about Baldur's Gate and build more Baldur's Gate games after Baldur's Gate 3's success and and in some point prior, they literally fired a lot of people at Wizards of the Coast, and they burned a lot of bridges between the contacts at Wizards of the Coast that were actually in good with Larian Studios, and they worked together a lot. They had a lot of good contact, and a lot of people are saying that has prompted Larian to say, yo, we're done with Baldur's Gate. We're done with this. We're bowing out of how you treated those Wizards of the Coast people, our contacts, and how you're moving. So this is a very interesting thing, because the statements that they're putting out about them wanting to make authentic games, they want to give developers the time, I'm gonna believe it when I see it. I think that's a very hollow statement given that the track record is. I can't show utmost faith in somebody who's put Larian through a lot of hell, put Wizards of the Coast through a lot of hell on in hindsight, over the creation of Baldur's Gate 3, and now that you see the success has come through, you want to capitalize on it as soon as possible with how many different studios, how many different games, this, that, and the third. It's just, I can't put my full faith in any of these projects. I can put interest, I can put intrigue. I cannot put my full faith knowing that if things do not go right, if there's a bad line of communication, or if there's something that might go slightly wrong, these corporate guys could snap, and it could be a very strenuous process, a very strenuous, time developing a game under their banner, because if they're not seeing the results they want to see, if they don't see the progress that they want to see, they might turn on a dime and say, yo, after this project is out, you and you, half of y'all, get out and we'll move it to the next thing. Or they'll take their IP, move it to the next studio, and leave these guys for dead. I don't see the goodwill in Hasbro's actions in video games. Even though this is their first big jump, what they've done so far to get slightly involved in video games, at least indirectly, has not been good. So there has to be some proof in the pudding. You either prove who you are, through what you've shown with Baldur's Gate 3, or you turn over a new leaf. Because that's what we've been seeing. So we have to, we gotta see. But I'm not the highest on confidence on Hasbro right now. Some really great projects, some really good ideas, but it's just the top brass that is behind this. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem to me that they're gonna really take the time to invest and slowly develop these games, because if there's anything AAA games, AAA projects, top line games, or whatever big investment projects in this industry need, it's time, care, and an executive team that understands what goes into this process to build, to just kind of, again, associate, incorporate so many different elements of gaming, so many talents across different studios, different teams, even across different companies. They need to understand the process in and out. They need to understand the time it takes, the requirements, and all of that, and they need to establish that goodwill from there. And that's my main thing with Hasbro. I haven't seen it in what they've done in the past, so there's not really much to go on with how they'll operate in the future until we see it happen live. So I can only wish the best of luck to the studios that are going into it. I hope these games come out fantastic. I hope there's a lot of good stuff that comes from it. But on Hasbro's front, you got a lot to prove.